And we're live. What up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of This Week in Real Estate, hosted by yours truly. My name's Ray. I'm a bearded man of real estate. And this is the, oh, wow. Hang on. I got some echo. There you go. This is the one place where you can come every week for all the latest in real estate news. We got Compass back in the headlines this week. We're going to talk about the New York Times taking on real estate agents and how the commenters responded. We're also going to talk about economic news. The Fed is going to make a decision right towards the end of our show, which is why we're starting today's show at 12:05. Because at 1 o'clock, the Fed will make an announcement whether or not they're going to move rates. And we're going to talk about what's happening with mortgages, housing supply, all that jazz, all on today's show. And we are broadcast live Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Last week I said 2023, and I couldn't figure out how to fix it. I don't know why I said that. What's up, Tom Tzak? Hey, Hillary. We are broadcasting live on Instagram, and for those of you joining us, you can comment, and I'll give you a shout out. I'll give your Instagram handle a shout out. We're also broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, just about anywhere that you can broadcast. We are broadcasting, and you can comment there, and then I can talk about you or your comment. So Tom Tzak from Maui says, aloha. Aloha, Tom. Thanks for joining us. We're also broadcasting live on Clubhouse at the same time. And that's kind of like a call-in. So if you want to, you can raise your hand. We have a moderator. Let me make Mike a moderator. What's up, Mike? You can raise your hand if you want to add your voice to the show. You're welcome to. I'm apologizing in advance about the audio quality in Clubhouse. For whatever reason, the audio quality is superb everywhere else except for Clubhouse. And I'm running it through a whole system. I've got the phone connected via Bluetooth. That's the only way I could connect the phone for some reason. So it's no different than what we normally do. It's just not wonderful every week. So if you want the highest quality of audio, be sure to download the podcast from iTunes or your favorite podcatcher and leave us a review on those two. So, all right, without further ado, let's get into the news. So the New York Times took aim at realtors, and then commenters pushed back. This summary article is on Broke Agent Media. Last week, The Daily, the New York Times flagship podcast, took aim at the real estate industry's response to NAR's landmark commission settlement. Woo-hoo-hoo. Can't talk today. The episode paints a picture of the industry resisting change, evading reform, and using, quote, creative tactics to maintain status quo. The title was "The Housing Market Has New Rules. Realtors Are Evading Them." I mean, them's fighting words. It says, we're talking about an industry that has been ruled by a group for over 100 years. I do feel like we're ruled by a group. I would say I agree with that. Here's a quick breakdown of the podcast, from watershed moment to workarounds. Let's see. The episode revisits the landmark settlement reached by the National Association of Realtors in March 2024 and the new commission rules stemming from it. Deborah Kamin, Kamin, put it, the idea behind the lawsuit is that their rules have essentially fixed prices on real estate commissions, inflated them, and made it so real estate commissions were higher than they should have been. They did not expect to lose the suit. They did lose the lawsuit, and a jury agreed that they were fixing prices on real estate commissions. The settlement was meant to shake up the system for how the commissions were determined and how they're paid. Okay, so have commissions gone down or up in your market? The goal of the new commission rule, according to Kamin, was threefold: increase transparency, allow consumers to negotiate commissions, and lower housing costs. But according to the Daily, that's not what happened. The MLS ban didn't end commission conversations. Agents were told they could no longer advertise commission splits on the MLS, so they started sharing information via text or email. Well, that's what you have to do. If your client is obligated to pay your fee, they're going to want to know, well, how much of that fee is covered. So most agents are going to be asking that up front. We don't do that as a practice. We just put in the offer. But most agents are going to ask up front, hey, what are you going to pay? What are you going to cover? Buyers and sellers still says the podcast states agents even share information through coded signals and like listing photos, like placing 3 cookies on a counter to imply 3%. I haven't seen that one. If there are 3 cookies on the counter, there will not be 3 cookies on the counter after I leave. And it has nothing to do with implied commission. It sounds like cookies. Buyers and sellers still face a lack of clarity Despite the rule change, many consumers say they're still pressured to pay 5 to 6% in commissions with little explanation or flexibility. Real estate agents are fighting to survive with more agents than listings. Many markets, well, I mean, yeah, there's two sides to every deal, so that's kind of normal. With more agents than listings in many markets, realtors are getting creative, often following cues from leadership at NAR about how to work around the new limitations to protect their income. What is this workaround they're talking about? The great real estate workaround. This is a great summary article, by the way, Broke Agent Media. The settlement was very specific, because I don't want to listen to this whole podcast. I'll just be on fire the whole time. The settlement was very specific in its language that the conversations about splitting commissions could not happen on these databases. So real estate community was like, okay, we'll just have these conversations elsewhere. It never said that we couldn't have them at all. Well, yeah, it's a term of the agreement in the contract. Of course, you can't not have them. Okay, so the case that captivated listeners. The case study chosen to illustrate Cameron's point was a former athlete entrepreneur, Mike Chambers, who tried to list his $2.75 million. This is Mike, everyone. This is Realtors Hate Me, Mike, without an agent. Frustrated by what he viewed as unjustified commission demands, he documented his for sale by owner journey. He quickly ran into resistance. MLS access was restricted by state rules. Zillow deprioritization. Buyer agents allegedly boycotted his home, because he wasn't playing by the rules. Eventually, Chambers scrapped the sale and pivoted to launching his own startup. That's where the story ends, it says. Within hours of the episode airing, the Daily's comment section filled with listener reactions, and a large number of them weren't piling on realtors. They were defending them. But were they realtors defending realtors? Some of the commenters were realtors themselves, but others knew realtors had earned their trust for hardworking, knowledgeable advisors. Obviously, those commenters knew it was a realtor and not just a real estate agent, because of the wonderful marketing the NAR did on our behalf. And sure, there were a few who were quick to denounce it, shaking the proverbial fist, but a large portion of plus commenters expressed disappointment in the one-sided treatment of the state professionals in the industry as a whole. Let's start with the commenters self-identified as real estate agents. So Larry DeFranco, longtime listener of the Daily, appreciated the commitment to balanced reporting, but after hearing this, I question the framing, especially as realtor actively navigating the evolving landscape. The episode notes that agents can no longer advise buyer broker compensation on the MLS, but overlooks why that matters. Agents still need compliant ways to share those offers. Basically, he's just clearing it up. The implication that the lawsuit saves sellers money is misleading. The commission still exists. It's now just on the buyer side expense. Yeah, obviously. The fact that people were getting into this commission settlement and thinking that consumers were going to save money from it is wild to me. It's the old, a for sale by owner person can't save the same 3%. So the old adage is like, if somebody's listing their home for sale by owner, in order to save the real estate compensation, then the buyer looks at the home that is for sale by owner and is like, oh, this is great. It's for sale by owner. So we could save the buyer, the realtor compensation. Both people can't save the compensation. One of them is going to have to pay.
They're mad because they enacted a change that didn't hurt us.
Right. It didn't hurt us and had very little impact on the on housing as a whole, I think.
So let's chop them off another way.
Yeah. That's essentially it. Lynn is in Austin, a realtor in Texas who's formerly a journalist. I'm appalled at how one-sided, misleading, and downright wrong this article is. There you go. It is at best harmful to prospective buyers and sellers, and at worst, it borders on unethical. Wow. There you go, Lynn. I don't know what Lynn's last name is, but it's an Austin realtor. I like Lynn, him or her. I won't go into many things this article got wrong because other commenters have outlined them all, but what I hope the Daily will revisit this topic in a more balanced, accurate, and comprehensive way. This episode truly makes me question every other episode I've heard from you about industries and topics I know less about. What is that? There's a known effect when you are hearing about topics that you don't know much about. You're just kind of taking it and trusting it. And then all of the sudden you hear the same podcast commentary on a topic that you know a lot about, and you realize how wrong they are with everything. And I don't think it's called confirmation bias. It's some kind of gosh, man, I wish I could remember what this is called, but there's a name for this. I want to say it starts with an N. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Am I crazy? There's a name.
Elon Musk has talked about it a few times.
Campaign. Let's go to the old reliable. We used to go to Google for old reliable. That is no longer old reliable. Okay. What is it called when someone talks about a topic familiar with and you realize how wrong they are? Okay, let's see how, that's a terrible description. Let's see. Oh, okay, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Wow, man, I love ChatGPT. The Dunning-Kruger effect in action is when somebody confidently speaks on a subject they don't truly understand, and you, being more knowledgeable, can easily spot the errors. More casually, you might call it secondhand embarrassment, cringe, imposter syndrome. Okay, it's just giving me other names for it. The Dunning-Kruger effect is what I was looking for. So this is like this is exactly what Lynn experienced. Right? She enjoys the daily. She listens to it. She's familiar with it. She trusts it. And all of a sudden it talks about something that she or he is intimately acquainted with. And suddenly Dunning-Kruger effect. Whoa, they are so wrong on this. What else could they be wrong about? Kathy said this episode was poorly researched or by choice extremely biased. If you want actual real information on how NAR settlement is played out, interview agents too. I'm curious who all the sources were who said that the changes would lead to lower home prices. I guarantee no real estate agent told you that. The most infuriating issue is that commissions have always been negotiable, always. Obviously, there are standard rates which vary by market, but and she put standard in quotes. I would be careful. But this is true in nearly all industries. I can call a plumber and I don't like their quoted rate. I can negotiate or call another. The same with realtors. The homeowner in Boulder said he couldn't find anyone to sell his house for less than 2.5% is ridiculous. Sure, he could. He just didn't want to use those people or wanted to gain publicity to drive up the sale price. Cynthia from Indiana said, I've been a realtor for 10 years. Today, when a realtor is hired to list their home, we have a conversation with the seller about the commissions, how it works. The sellers can offer. All right, they're just explaining it. We've all talked about that. Unreal estate agents. And the article on Broke Agent Media says comments from non-real estate agents were more of a mix, but a fair number were notably disappointed. The podcast host, Kamens in particular, biased against agents and the industry. Dan Nelson said this is the second time the podcast has decided to call realtors Goliath. Very few realtors make a livable wage. Very true. However, it is a rare opportunity for single mothers and people without a college degree. Whoa, bro, whoa, hang on a minute. What are you saying?
What's up with that?
No, I think there's another word for unintentionally insulting people. Okay. Wow. Okay. So opportunity for single mothers and people without a college degree to be able to support their family just by being great at their job.
and they show up on the short bus for showing.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, what?
I wish the daily.
That?
They said, I wish the daily had spent a little less time trying to understand the life of average realtor instead of paying the bulk of the interview on a guy who purported to have a terrible time not selling his 1.7 million home. Okay. Michael G said, I recently listed my condo in Miami Beach. I told the broker that I would only pay his 3% commission, not the buyer's agent compensation. He said it would be very difficult to get anyone to bring potential buyers to the condo. I said, I don't care. He listed it in the unit as per my wishes. I also received 2 cash offers, one which was 10% over asking price. We closed quickly. I was happy with the decision of paying the 3%. That's the value he provided, and I was happy to get his 3% and sell it without any additional effort. Maddie said, I tried to get through this podcast. But it wasn't easy. This is a regular consumer. Real estate agents work very hard to earn the money they make, and it's ridiculous to assume that buyers don't need representation and the agents work harder for sellers. You should interview buyers to find out how much their agent helped them. Most buyers don't have upfront cash. Yeah, I mean, this morning, even just spending the time on the phone with the buyers, it was incredible what we were able to get done for them. So, all right, future buyer, not even giving their name, just a future buyer in Washington. So those of you in Washington, put some feelers out. Maybe you can find this person. I don't understand why these journalists are not talking to buyers. Buyers now have to either pay their own agents or find seller's agent that will offer to pay the buyer agent. I've bought one house so far 5 years ago, and if I had to pay my agent's commission, I would be in a very different situation. All the cash that we had went towards the down payment. We're starting to think about moving to a bigger house. We have a kid and a dog now, and knowing what I know about the market and agent compensation, I won't even look at a home that doesn't offer at least compensation to my agent. I definitely can't afford it. Interesting. And of course, you got the whole real estate salespeople or car dealers stuff. So you have all those people in there too. I just thought it was interesting and maybe a little bit encouraging to hear people that are supporting us for once. I listen to every single day and find this podcast incredibly well researched and balanced and well presented. This episode is a massive exception, a true disappointment. Deborah Kamen, who did you talk to for this? Please do some research and record a follow-up. So people are kind of fiery about it. That's interesting. I got to clear my throat. So hard. So it looks
Wait
like.
Wait a minute. I was applauding with your podcast or the other podcast?
Well, I mean, my podcast, of course, but this, the one that everyone's disappointed in is not mine.
Okay, sorry about that. I retract my hands up in the air emoji.
Let's see. Bart Tracy, Dallas Real Estate, says in the comments, Jared James just called out Catchmark's analogy that real estate agents are going to be like Blockbuster. Jared called his statement disgusting. Yeah, I concur. I don't know, disgusting. I mean, it's just a point of view that thinks real estate agents are outdated. I think a lot of the practices of real estate agents are going to be like Blockbuster. You know, there's a lot of things that we used to do that we don't do now. There's a lot of things that we have changed and innovated, and real estate agents that don't innovate, I think they're going to go the way of Blockbuster. Hey, speaking of things that we used to do that we don't do now, did y'all see the thumbnail over on YouTube? Let me put that up for you. The thumbnail is me, of course, and it says private listing books ? And it has the Compass CEO Robert Refkin with a very poorly combined old book that says Compass on it with the Compass logo, and it's like a super old like an old classic book, and he is holding it. And if you look real close, you can see where I had to Photoshop around his hand and thumb and such to get this in there. But it's not. I'm okay. It's the second week in a row that Robert is on the thumbnail, and maybe it wasn't such a great Photoshop job because I only had about 2 minutes to do it and to cut out the fingers and get all that stuff. It took a minute. But anyway, Compass is bringing back the listing book with an off-market twist, and the industry was uppity about this one. There were a lot of comments on this. Before Zillow, before IDX feeds, and before swipeable apps and AI-powered CMAs, there was an MLS book, a thick binder of active listings kept in the brokerage office. Buyers had to visit in person to view what was available. Many of those books did not even have photos in them. So you could see the bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, you could see addresses, and sometimes they would have a little bitty photo in it, but most of the time there was no photo. Now Compass is bringing the concept back with a 2025 twist. Private book for off-market listings. Compass just launched a private exclusives book, a collection of off-market MLS listings that buyers can only view in person at select Compass offices. Initially available at the largest Compass location in each market, the book includes all private exclusive listings from the brokerage and will be updated multiple times per week or in real time. It's not just Compass agents who can view the listings. According to the firm, agents affiliated with any brokerage can go by and look at the book individually on a one-on-one basis. Oh, that's a great idea. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, this is terrible. This is a great idea because they're saying we want to make our off-market inventory available to everyone. And this is what I said a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it was last week when I said I think Redfin wants to make this stuff available to agents outside of the company. It looks like that's exactly what they want to do. They want a private listing network that they can make available to anyone. And currently, Clear Cooperation has a carve out for brokerage exclusives that does not allow them to share anything outside of their brokerage. So Compass isn't trying to keep these just to themselves. They're saying anybody could go by our office and take a look. I love this. I think it's great. They got a lot of crap in the comments. There were a lot of people.
This is slap tips. Oh,
this is what you broke up. That didn't sound good. What'd you say?
I was backing out to let other people speak, but this is his slap to CCP for sure, because this has been his stance. The MLS book had 10 listings per page, black and white, with a little bit of detail in it, and this is I mean, back to my original question last week: decouple MLS and NAR, and if we want to share listings amongst ourselves as a trade organization in the best interest of the consumer and the agent, what's wrong with that?
I have a confession to make. Let me go to a different view here.
Do I need music?
No. Well, maybe I have. No, I don't have any. I don't have any music that I can play that is not
the door slamming in the confessional is fine.
I don't have anything that'll get not kick me off of YouTube. So, all right, you can't see it unless you're watching the YouTube. But I'm going to raise this up, and this is the off-market properties binder that we have. Look at this. This is called a listing book of off-market properties. We've been doing this for a long time. It is no different than my off-market properties book. And my off-market properties book is a collection of properties that are, these in particular, many of them are not even listed by us, but they are properties that we know are available. They're currently off-market. Some are listed by us and coming soon. So we have them in the book, and it is available. I didn't make it available to other agents. I never thought about that. But this book is available to any of our clients. So this is something that people have been talking about for a long time. This is not new. The only thing different is that this is at a corporate level. I think agents and team leaders, there's a lot of people that have been doing these off-market type of products, office exclusive, team exclusive. This has been going on for a long time. The only difference is that Compass is good about marketing it. That's it. So I don't have a problem with it. I think what they're doing is fine. It's a workaround. I can't wait to see what NAR does. As it says on page 3 of Redfin's post, Compass is now the only brokerage to share all off-market listings with the entire brokerage community. Unfortunately, there's persistent false narrative suggesting that the motivation behind the Compass private exclusive double-end deals could not be further from the truth. Why it matters and what agents should know. This is a callback to the pre-internet MLS model, but with a focus on privacy and modern marketing strategy. The listings are offline and in office only. So that was a big change because I think they did have the private listing network like Douglas Elliman did, or maybe that was just Elliman that had the private listing network that you could go in. But these listings are offline and in office only. If you want access, you have to visit the office in person. No portals, no public search. Compass claims this model promotes co-brokerage, not in-house exclusivity. According to the company, the majority of private exclusive sales involve agents from other firms. Legal compliance is built in. Compass cites NAR's MLS antitrust compliance policy and a recent clarification allowing one-to-one sharing of office exclusives. I love it. Fair housing access is a core talking point. The company argues this method is compliant with civil rights laws. Any potential group of buyers can visit a Compass office to see these listings. Everybody's got access. I mean, so the internet was on fire about it though, and there were a lot of talking heads taking to the interwebs saying stuff like, oh, they're bringing this back. This is terrible for real estate. We want to get out of the listing books and all this stuff. And I don't know if they just didn't really understand the breadth of what Compass was doing, or if they just chose to ignore it. But in my opinion, they sounded extremely ignorant. There are people that don't want their property listed online, but they want to be able to sell it, and they want to be able to sell it to agents with potential clients like this. So they're listing it with a company like Compass, and they want to offer it as an exclusive to see how it does. And then if it doesn't do right, maybe they'll put it online. I wonder what Zillow's reaction is going to be, because Zillow said, well, if you share it through a portal online or you do an email blast, you're not going to be able to list it. But what about these books? What are they going to do with the books? The listing books would be a weird way around. I mean, it would destroy Zillow. Let's say every office created a listing book. I mean, there's a lot of offices out there, but let's say every office created a listing book, and you would just have to go to like old school. It would Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com would be gone in a month, because there's no way they would be able to compete with this. They would have to basically send a researcher around to all the offices together. It's interesting theoretical thought. Well, obviously that's not going to happen, but it's interesting to think about. So on their post, they say, to promote greater transparency and collaboration, agents from all brokerages are invited to visit Compass offices to individually browse private exclusive listings on a one-on-one basis. They are not publicly available online. They're not publicly available online. Are they privately available online? Is that a distinction without a difference? All right, so drop in the comments. What do you think? I think this is good. I don't have any problem with it. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. If you hate it, if you love it, what do you think? I mean, if you're against it, I want to make sure you're against it for the right reason. Like you have to state a reason other than this is going to benefit them more than it will benefit me. That's not a reason. That's an admission that you're not good at marketing. So let's just start there. This initiative reimagines the spirit of the original MLS book by providing a centralized physical resource to discover unique properties while respecting the privacy, security, and marketing strategies of today's sellers. There you go. It'll be a big day at the office when the listing book updates, right? I mean, if I'm a real estate agent in an office that with a good Compass office, and I don't want to be a part of Compass because they take all my money, you can bet that I'm going to know when they update that book. I'm going to go look at that book and make some notes. I wonder if they allow people to like take pictures of the listing book. That's a thing that wasn't around during the old original listing books, right? You couldn't just quickly turn the page and snap a shot with your cell phone.
Dude, we had cameras back then.
We had cameras, but we didn't have cell phone cameras with immediate access to then publish it onto the internet. So it was very, very different. I wonder what the rules. I bet the rules are going to be like, here, put your cell phone in this basket. You can't use it while you're looking at the book. Because if they have to maintain privacy and keep these properties off the internet, I mean, that they got to have a policy about it. And I bet you have to sign in. Maybe you go to a little room with the book all alone. This is kind of fun. I kind of like the ideas. All right. Private listing books. There we are. We talked about this topic a little bit last week. This article is from this week. The fight over NAR's speech code, free speech or ethical standard. I let you guys know where I stood on this last week. I want people to be able to say whatever they want because I want to know who I'm working with. And if I'm working with somebody that's a supremacist one way or the other, I want to know because I don't want to give them my money. So if you prevent that person from saying that stuff, then I don't know who they are, and I may be supporting them without wanting to support them. That's my stance. And I also want people to be able to see the differentiation between those people and me and pick me. Work with me. Don't work with that supremacist. All right. A new battle is playing out in the real estate world. This time it's not about commissions or private listings. It's about speech. National Association of Realtors Speech Code, formerly known as Standard of Practice 10-5, is in the spotlight. Part of the issue with the Standard of Practice is that it doesn't just say hate speech. It says harassing speech. And that is extremely subjective. It can be taken any number of ways. And I said last week, I used the example about trans athletes, biological males in sports with biological females. If you came out against this practice, then would that be considered harassing speech or hate speech? And then could you lose your ability to be part of NAR? You can still maintain a real estate license. I think I said last week, lose your license, but what I meant was you would lose your membership in the NAR, which is getting less and less valuable anyway, but you would lose your membership in the NAR, and because somebody complained that you're harassing speech because you came out against biological males competing against biological females. Now, on the flip side of this, you could also say, hey, you're supporting biological males competing with biological females. Therefore, you are saying that you are against women. And now I'm going to string you up for that. So you could go both ways on that specific debate. But this is where it gets into the muddy areas. If you're just coming out for or against something like that, then could you lose your opportunity to be a part of your MLS in practice? Rob Hahn, the CEO of Decentra Labs and the creator of Notorious ROB Substack, is one of the policy's most vocal opponents. In a recent Substack post, Hahn applauded new legislation in Texas that would force NAR to strike the code from its books. He says, quote, Texas is about to kill NAR speech code dead. I'm ready to throw a party for the victory of freedom over control, for victory of free speech and freedom of conscience. So then it goes into the article that we covered last week about the Texas law. Is it a law bill? Texas bill. Not everyone is celebrating. Ryan Hanlon, founder and former CEO of the LGBTQ plus Real Estate Alliance, strongly disagrees with Hahn's stance. He said the First Amendment was never meant to be a blunt weapon. It protects speech from government censorship, not from consequence, not from accountability, and certainly not from moral scrutiny. And then it does clarify. To be clear, Hahn never suggested speech was free of consequence or accountability, just the right to have free speech, not be violated by an organization's code of ethics. That's what I think. I totally agree. The First Amendment was never meant to be a blunt weapon, but it was also never meant to free someone from consequence or accountability. But if they're not saying it, then there is no consequence or accountability for believing it. So I would rather people say it so that we can hold them accountable. And we hold them accountable in capitalism by not buying from them. So please say it. That is the accountability. And that is how moral scrutiny is passed, is by no monies. Hanlon counter argues that realtors, like members of other licensed professions, agree to a higher standard when they join. Let's see, code of ethics aren't just a good idea. They're expected. They're only encouraged by federal regulators, but strongly recommended. I don't think anybody has a problem with the general code of ethics. It's just, you can't infringe on the Bill of Rights. You just can't. For decades, the National Association for Realtors endorsed racially restrictive covenants. NAR fought to preserve redlining. Was until 1972. Yeah, they're given the history of it. So what the law actually says, speech ends where another's safety begins. Legally, experts say NAR's code doesn't violate the First Amendment. The Constitution limits government censorship, not private organizations. Hamlin put it. There are two landmark Supreme Court cases. That's why many legal scholars maintain that trade organizations like NAR have the right to enforce professional codes of conduct. So there you go. It's just a little vague. Hans' counterpoint is, nay, on the contrary, without free speech, there is no justice. There could be no justice without freedom of speech and conscience. There's only opposition, silencing, censorship, finger wagging, and moral posturing because the other side is prevented from talking. All right, so there you go. The notorious ROB takes a stand for free speech. I think anybody that probably has a podcast is for getting rid of that rule, because we say a lot of words. And if somebody misconstrues those words as a harassing speech, like last week, somebody sent me a text message. It was like, wait, are you for boys and girls sports? I was like, what? They're like, yeah, I was listening to your podcast. It sounded like you said you were for it. So I had to clarify, but if somebody misconstrues what you say, or they take it out of context, then suddenly, because so much membership of NAR is tied into the MLS, now you basically lose your livelihood because someone felt harassed by what you said. So NAR's got a long way to go. Hanna CEO Hoby Hanna, Hoby, is his name Hoby? I've never seen his first name. I didn't know that. NAR sold the industry down the river, is what he said. So Hanna, one of more than 90 largest brokerages that are not covered under the National Association of Realtors, $418 million settlement of multiple commissions related antitrust lawsuit nationwide last year, and its CEO is not going to forget about it. Because Hanna was left out of the deal, its company, Hanna Holdings, was left to fight one of those suits. On Friday, after a year of legal feuds, the company announced it had finally reached an agreement to settle on the Gibson Commission lawsuit, leaving only an antitrust suit brought by homebuyers to resolve. Wow. What was the settlement? Do we know the settlement? No. Hanna had much more to say about how he believes NAR's MLS rules have harmed brokerages and are trying to innovate during and through the housing market and compete against consolidating rivals. Hanna mentioned not just CCP, but also the Internet Data Exchange, the IDX, which allow agents and brokers to display each other's listings on their websites, and virtual office websites, VOWs, which allow agents and brokers to display certain listing information for consumers to register on their websites. Hanna told Inman that he's considering leaving NAR and its MLSs. He said, because they sold the industry down the river on the lawsuits and didn't protect their members. We, as an individual broker, are tied up in a lawsuit based on NAR saying, here's how MLS had to work, and putting dictates and even creating clear cooperation to begin with. Yeah, that's a good point. So these guys that were left to fend for themselves are saying like, hey, NAR told us to do all this stuff, and now they're saying we're not covered by it. Why can't they bring in NAR as a third party to the suit, saying we followed what they said to do? And what that's interesting. I would totally sue NAR if I was them. Do you know of any other big brokerages like yourself that are thinking this way? And he said, I couldn't believe that there is a big broker anywhere that isn't thinking this way or feeling this way today. And I think NAR knows that. I'm a believer that there should be a shared database, and that in different markets, the brokers should share and know it's for sale, but putting rules like IDX and VOW in place across the country wasn't necessary. I don't know. I mean, IDX and VOW seem to make it easy to share those things, but I'd rather have a national MLS. Then he goes into clear cooperation, a couple other things, but Hanna CEO ain't happy. All right, we're going to get into some economic news in just a second. We have one more update. Redfin unfazed by a 2% revenue drop as it finalizes the deal with Rocket. Redfin began the year with a loss, and it's with its revenue and real estate gross profits declining as net losses widened. The Seattle-based firm first quarter revenue declined 2% year over year to $221 million, while the net losses ballooned from $66.8 million to $92.5 million. Eesh, that hurts. Earnings before interest. Redfin's adjusted EBITDA. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization was a loss that declined 9.4% year over year to $32 million. Redfin's overall gross profits remain flat, 70.6 million. So I don't think that's going to really impact the merger much. I think it's going to be pretty normal. And since March 10th, an announcement of Redfin's agreement to be bought by Rocket, many Redfin employees from agents to engineers have been over the moon about Rocket's vision of the homeownership platform. Kelman said, the CEO of Redfin, "We can't wait to join Rocket and build the future of home ownership." All right. So what's going on in the market? We got 15 minutes until the Fed makes a decision. So we'll break in. All right. Any comments about the what's going on in the industry overall? It's a weird time. We're going backwards and forwards at the same time, I feel like. No? Okay. Oh, I thought I saw somebody right there. What's up, Scap? I didn't see you hop in here. There you go. Okay.
I decided to join today. I mean, I had nothing else better to do on a rainy day.
Oh my gosh, man. This should have been your first choice. What are you talking about? Nothing else better to do. This is the thing to do. I don't know, by the way, next week, just a little scheduling before we get into the economic news. I don't know if we will have a show next week or if it'll be at a different time. So if it is a different time, be sure you hit the subscribe and the bell on YouTube so that you can be notified and join the show live if you want to join live. But I may have to make it on Tuesday or Thursday next week because there's a real event Wednesday, maybe Wednesday and Thursday next week. So Real X is doing that, like a virtual conference that I have to go to. So I'm not sure about the show for next week. So just be sure you're subscribed wherever you're subscribed and you have the little bell so that you can get the notifications and join the show. All right. Was this the article? Yeah. Weekly mortgage demand suddenly surges. What? Despite a lingering economic uncertainty. So mortgage interest rates dropped for the second week, though not by a lot. That was thanks to the negative news on the economy. But despite that, the weekly demand surged higher by 11%, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association seasonally adjusted index. Let's see. Applications for a mortgage to purchase a home rose 11% and were 13% higher than the same week a year ago. Driving the increase was a surge in demand for conventional loans, which Fran and Tony called as surprisingly strong, given the lingering economic uncertainty. I can't remember who I was talking about this with this week, but we were talking about the market and what was happening in the markets. And I shared with them that it seemed like the stuff towards the bottom of our market was starting to move pretty rapidly, but not the very bottom. You know, the stuff in our market from like 200 to 400 was going pretty quick. As long as the home was priced right, photos were great, and had that cute factor, the home would move. If it wasn't priced right, it would sit. Or if it wasn't in good condition, it would sit. And luxury seems to be waking up a little bit in our market, but it's still sitting. And the person I was talking to said, that's weird. It's backwards for us. Their luxury is starting to fly off the market. And the stuff at the bottom of the barrel is not even moving. So kind of interesting. Borrowers of conventional loans tend to have larger loan sizes and more apt to be move-up buyers. So that is that goes in line with what that person was saying about the luxury market moving a little faster. And it may be just big city versus small town differentiations there. April housing market was decidedly slow as some potential buyers say they're afraid to make a major financial move given the potential impact from tariffs. Some are still smarting from the roller coaster ride the stock market took earlier in the month. And it back up. Okay, I don't even know. We had this TikTok that was going around that was a viral TikTok talking about Washington, D.C. housing doubling, and it was crazy. Well, here are the official numbers on that. Just came out today. Washington, D.C. housing inventory jumps a record, but it was only 25%. So, for instance, if there were 4 homes on the market last year, this year there are 5. That's a 25% increase. Okay. Washington, D.C. sees record surge in home sales. Year-over-year change in active listings for homes for sale in the Washington, D.C. metro area is up 25.1%. Quite a few people in DC are selling their home because they're losing their jobs, said local Redfin premier agent Mary Bazargan. Many of those people are planning to leave the area because the cost of living is so high. Now, I also know a lot of people that are getting jobs in DC from our areas, actually, that are transporting, that are relocating there. So I wonder if that's going to balance out from all the relocates, but maybe it's a better deal right now because there's so many people leaving. Elon Musk Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, has been slashing government workers in an attempt to reduce federal spending. At least 121,000 federal workers have been laid off or targeted for layoff. Again, I don't think they've hit that number yet. They want to, but so far it's not been even close to what Clinton was able to do. So DC housing inventory hits the highest level since 2022. It is a pretty big roller coaster ride here. It seems to go up every April and May. And then it seems to go back down November, December, January. So it is following the right pattern. It is not even close to what it was in 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. It had a bump in 2022 that took it high. And then it was probably record lows in 2024. So we're not even, I like that they put the whole chart here so you have context. We're not even, they're just barely over half of what it was in 2015. And there's more people. There's more of a need. So it's still super low inventory. This number can nearly double, and then it finally be appropriate compared to 2016, 2017. So, all right. That's the highlights. That's DC. Just mentioning that because that viral TikTok that everybody was talking about. Housing costs hit an all-time high amid economic uncertainty, keeping buyers on the sidelines. But yet a more recent article said the buyers are coming out of the woodwork to buy. So a lot of people who would normally be making moves right now are standing still until this week. They want to ride out this period of economic uncertainty and wait until they feel more secure until this week. That's why, the news is changing so fast that usually I cover a week's worth of articles during the show, but these last couple of weeks, if you haven't noticed, we've been rapid firing the news articles and maybe just sitting on one or two economic news articles that are more relevant because it's changing so quickly. And I think it's just part of, Trump doing things quickly. His first 100 days, he's done a crap ton. And so everything's moving faster, including the market. I didn't find, so someone tell me who sends their kid to daycare, because I didn't find this article to be wild. Sending 2 kids to daycare costs more than rent in most major US metros. I would think so. Because you're almost at daycare longer than you're in the rent house. I just feel like there's okay, I don't know what this stat, does anyone know what this stat is used for? Or if this is kind of significant in any kind of economic measure? I just don't. 5 metros where daycare costs nearly as much as rent. Denver, Colorado, Seattle, Washington, Minneapolis, Minnesota, San Francisco, California, Baltimore, Maryland. All right. I've never heard this stat tracked.
Your debt to income rate.
Say that again, Terry.
But it can totally destroy your debt to income.
Daycare?
And my son and daughter-in-law, their daughter, because she's now 3 and still refuses to go to the bathroom on the potty, it costs an extra $600 a month for them to have.
There's a potty penalty?
Yep.
Wow. I would be buying so much candy for that kid. That's our strategy. You go pee-pee in the potty, you get some candy. So you're saying that the daycare cost is calculated not as a discretionary expense when a lender's looking at the portfolio. It's considered part of their debt to income / spending ratio, Terry?
It goes away when they start public school typically, right?
Yeah,
So
but
right
I
now
didn't
it's
know a
an
lender
expense.
even looked at that as like a thing. So
It's
that's
a thing. You
interesting.
got to put it down as one of your expenses, just like buying a car.
Yeah, I guess so. Childcare costs are low compared to rent in Miami, Los Angeles, and New York, but paying for both still eats up roughly half the median income. Holly Dolly says private school is cheaper than daycare where I live. That's interesting. I wouldn't think that would be used. Yeah, I'm curious how that's used in the calculation. She said, Holly Dolly, I agree that there are definitely situations. Oh wait, sorry, I'm just reading through the text. I normally, just so you know, guys, I normally don't look at the chat in Clubhouse, but it popped up for me, so I could click it. Sometimes it doesn't even pop up, but I can't even see it. So just so you know. All right. Interesting stat. Like, I guess Redfin's going to be tracking it now, and we'll be tracking it with them. We'll be looking at the cost of sending two kids to daycare as it compares to rent. What about the price gap between new and existing homes? It remains narrow in 2025. This is always something that has interested me, because I remember a time in our market specifically where new homes were more expensive. I mean, resale homes were more expensive than new. And if you wanted a existing home in an area, you're actually paying more for it than you were paying for new homes in the area, because I don't really know what the situation was, but I remember doing a lot of comparative market analysis calculations, and it was weird. But for the most part, existing homes sell lower than new construction. And currently, I guess in 2024, you can see the inversion there. This is on the national level. So in 2024, they had an inversion where new homes were less expensive than existing. Now that is reverted and is back down. So new homes are now cheaper, or new homes are now more expensive than existing again. So typically new homes sell for more than existing homes. However, during the second quarter of 2024 and several years ago in my market, which was interesting. All right, the herky jerky market. Herky jerky start to spring buyer season isn't deterring real estate agents. No, we out here. Let's see. We felt and seen a significant shift over the last couple of weeks. We have buyers that have been kind of quote unquote on the fence, now seem to be ready to make the move. Yeah, I feel like I told a seller today that it feels like the market is waking up. That's what, it's kind of been asleep. Now it feels like they're waking up. All right, and we are 2 minutes away from the Fed making their announcement. I have two more articles from the National Association of Realtors. Mortgage rates ease slightly. Is it enough to grow spring sales? This was May 2nd. I guess people did see that the mortgage rate eased last week, and then they jumped into the market again. Mortgage application activity, particular for home purchases, continues to be subdued by broader economic uncertainty, says Joel Kahn, Mortgage Bankers Association's Vice President and Deputy Chief Economist. On a positive note, pending home sales reflecting the contract signings posted the largest month-to-month increase in March since December of 2023. We talked about that last week. Buyers may find more negotiating power. That's what we're seeing as well. Buyers are able to negotiate a little more. I went and showed a house this morning, and I am able to do a comparative market analysis this afternoon and get back with the agent because no one else is interested. That hasn't happened in a while. You remember the days where a property hits the market and you're like, hey, can I go show this? And they're like, sure, I just got it in. We have 4 offers. That's not happening now. As a matter of fact, homes are sitting. And if they're not priced right out of the gate, they're sitting a long time. So mortgage rate averages.
Ray?
Yeah, go ahead.
So based on what you just said, we had conversation in our Pennsylvania group this morning that apparently a bunch of agents not sure who specifically, but they go under contract as, sold and are pending, and yet they're putting it in the system as active with contract instead of taking it to pending right away. So of course we're trying to figure out the legality of that with our MLS.
What do you mean?
I know in California sometimes that was normal. So typically, in Pennsylvania, if you present your agreement to the seller and the seller picks one that you do not have a contract that says active with contract, which allows it to continue to be shown, say, until
we have that.
Inspections are over, or until they sell a house. Typically, sometimes they have to sell a house. So, we have a specific contract that says you are allowed to continue marketing while, basically it puts you in first position.
We call it taking backups.
My terms, but I understand your. Okay, and we call it here. Once it's pending, it's supposed to be pending, done, off market.
Interesting.
And apparently, we have agents here who are skirting that system and just automatically putting it in as active with contract.
Well,
so it'll be interesting to see where that goes with our MLS.
I mean, that's no problem. I think it's just a regional difference. Where we are, people can put it in as taking backups, but they have to make it active for like a split second, save it, and then they go and put it as taking backup offers. That is our active with a contract. And they can still show it, but it already has offers on it, accepted, all that jazz. So, but you're going to see more and more of that stuff the more popular the private listing networks become and the off-market properties. So that'll be more and more common. But we also have a thing called sold before listed. And if we take a property all the way to close before putting it in MLS, it is a SBL, sold before listed. So, all right, let me get to last article. Staging to sell. Have you guys noticed a shift towards staging homes? I haven't noticed a shift towards staging homes in our market, but I have noticed a shift towards making sure the home is as perfect as possible before selling. The condition has been the shift. Like the property needs to be ready. If it's got, crappy carpet and it stinks, it's going to go way below market. But if it's staged, even virtually staged, it will help get people into the house. But I don't think that's been a significant shift. I think that's just kind of a normal part of our job. But Realtor, the National Association of Realtors, said that there was a recent study that suggests it could help. 2025 Profile of Home Staging, a survey of 1,200 real estate professionals conducted by the National Association of Realtors. 58% of them said that buyers were disappointed when the homes they visited didn't live up to what they saw on TV. In fact, 73% of agents blamed home design shows for creating unrealistic expectations. I think that's funny stat. Impact of buyer viewing a staged home. If you're trying to get someone to stage a home, this is a great report to have on hand. 83% said it's easier to visualize a property as a future home when it's staged. 32% said it will positively impact the home value if it's decorated to the buyer's taste. But that's the question. What's the buyer's taste? 31% more willing to walk through a home they saw online. 20% said more willing to overlook the other property faults. But 9% said it will negatively impact the home value if it's decorated against the buyer's taste, right? Okay. 5% said they're more suspect of home features. That's interesting. I guess if you walk into a home and you could tell it's staged, I have had clients be like, I wonder what else they're doing. Yeah, I have heard that. That wouldn't be unfamiliar. If we walk into a home and they're like, this home looks staged. I wonder if they're covering up something. Yeah, I've heard that many times. So I'd love to know what you think. Drop in the comments. Are you staging stuff? Or are you not staging stuff? I will say that if you're staging stuff by putting a little vase with dead flowers in the corner, that ain't it. There's other stuff to do. That is definitely not it. So that's my opinion. All right. Breaking news from This Week in Real Estate. The Fed keeps rates steady. Dun, dun, dun. So the Dow raises 200 points after the Fed's decision as traders await Powell's comments. Let's see if I can get to an article that actually states the comments. Let me refresh this. We always have a couple of articles that cover it, but one of them is just like a live update. As the Fed hold rates steady, as it notes rising uncertainty and stagflation risk. Let's see. The Federal Reserve on Wednesday held its key interest rate unchanged as it awaits fluctuations in trade policy and the direction of a sputtering economy, in a move that carried little suspense given the wave of uncertainty sweeping across the political economic landscape. The Federal Reserve Open Committee held its benchmark overnight borrowing rate in range between 4.25 and 4.5, where it was in December. The post-meeting statement noted the volatility and how it's factoring into policy decisions, said, quote, uncertainty about the economic outlook, it has increased further. The committee is attentive to the risk on both sides of the dual mandate and judges that the risk of higher unemployment and higher elevation have risen. Okay. So we have higher unemployment and higher inflation have both risen. Then if you drop the rates, I'm thinking through this, I'm verbally processing. If you drop rates, it increases inflation, roughly, because dropping rates will allow businesses to expand, and the expansion eats up that higher unemployment, right? So now you have lower unemployment, but you will have an increase in inflation if you don't have enough production, if you don't have enough stuff coming in for people to buy. So prices will go up. The statement did not specifically address tariffs, though Jerome Powell is sure to be asked about them in his post-meeting press conference. If the Fed raises rates, then unemployment effectively goes up because businesses can't expand, and some will retract, some will save more money, some will kind of come back. Some will not take out that loan to buy the other warehouse to grow. Instead, they will just kind of come in. So if that happens, then inflation goes down because fewer people can order stuff. And that would be a reason to, in that case, lower the rate. Right? Did I just mix myself up? Yeah, they lower the rate in that case because then that fixes the unemployment. So if they're in a situation where they're like, well, we're afraid of higher unemployment and we're afraid of inflation, then they stay put because that's essentially balance. Does this make sense? Are we tracking? Okay. Living in Columbus, South Carolina says 100% staging here. That's interesting. Scap called it 1 minute before the announcement. He said Fed will not cut rates. Most people, I think, were predicting that Fed would not cut rates this time. I found it interesting last time that they said they would not cut rates because of the risk of inflation. But historically, the Fed lowers rates if inflation is a risk. So maybe you watch the podcast, but he doesn't appear to be saying that this time. So it's well known that he does not like Trump. So I also think there's a little bit of that in there. Go ahead. Somebody was going to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, Ray, just briefly.
What's up, Andy?
Yeah, I think you said a moment ago that the economy was sputtering.
Yeah, that's what the Fed said. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not what's happening. I mean, that may be what they say, but the employment, which is one of the two Fed mandates, is actually growing.
Yeah.
Corporate profits are actually, for most companies, off the charts. The stock market has completely recovered from the drop of the tariff announcements a few weeks ago, and that even car sales, that even Ford and GM beat estimates on car sales. So the economy isn't sputtering, and I think that's why they kept the rates exactly where they are. And so I just wanted to.
I agree.
And this is not to say that there aren't. It's not to say there aren't sectors of the economy which are weaker than others. Of course there are, but there always are. And it's not to say that there aren't parts of the country that aren't stronger and weaker than others. But that's always true too.
Yeah.
So
100%. Very, very localized / regional. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the whole, I mean, the Fed is also looking to see whether Trump can actually cut some of the deals that he wants.
Yeah.
And get beyond the entire tariff issue. But as of the headlines this morning, it looks like he might.
Yeah.
Because the Chinese say that they want to sit down and talk. Now, that's not to say that we will get beyond the tariff issues or that we won't get beyond the tariff issues. But as of an announcement that needs to be made today, that's why. Anyway, I need to sign off. I just wanted to get in.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think the way they're wording things is political, but the decisions they're making show support for so far the economic policy and what's happening. So it's really funny. Like last time they're like, oh, we're not going to lower the rates because we're worried about recession. But even like you could just ask ChatGPT, what happens to rates? What happens to the Fed with rates during a recession? And just watch what it says. It's like before the recession, they tend to lower the rates because they don't want the recession to happen. And this is so if they were actually concerned about that, they would have made a different decision. So their notes are not matching their actions. And it's going to start to become blatantly obvious eventually. I think right now it's vague enough where they're like, oh, it's uncertainty. So we're just going to stay put. Okay, fine. But I think it's going to become pretty obvious, and they're going to have to start making some changes as the economy turns around. And I also think I have a good friend that texted me and said, are you happy with how everything's going? Knowing that, I don't think it's any secret that I'm more conservative, voted for Trump. And I said, I think everyone that voted him in knew that there would be a period of almost chaos. It would be very chaotic. It would be so many changes made. I think everyone that voted him in knew how the tariffs would work, that there has to be legitimate threat of tariffs and even implementation of tariffs in order to bring anyone to a bargaining table. Because if you threaten someone, I mean, it's anyone that's read The Art of the Deal by Trump knows exactly what's happening. If you're curious, like, how is he doing this or why is he just read the book. You may not like the guy, but if you read the book, then you're like, oh, okay. One of the things in the book is like, a deal's not dead if you're still sitting at the table. So as long as you're sitting at the table, you go for everything you can. And the moment that the person starts to get up from the table, starts to terminate, that's when you've hit the limit. But until you're at that limit, you go for whatever you can. So the more outlandish stuff he goes for, and the more that people are still sitting at the table, the more outlandish stuff he's going to go for on our behalf. And that's exactly what you want in a negotiator. And then you start to back up from that outlandish stuff to get the deal done. And anyone that's read the book knows exactly what's happening, whether you're for Trump or against him. I would encourage you to just take a look at the book. So he's been using this stuff as a negotiating tactic. It sends the stock market into turmoil that is, normal based on volatility. As you work through it, as what Andy was saying, as you work through that volatility, as the deals are struck, because remember, they gave a 90-day pause on all the tariffs that they were putting on all these other countries because so many countries were calling them. I think they had something crazy, like 40 or 90 countries that were reaching out and saying, hey, we want to work a deal. He's worked a deal with India that is in process, that is going to be the best deal with India that we've ever had. And so I think he's using them effectively to get the deals, because we have been taken advantage of for a long time, and we didn't really have a way to fight it. We didn't have a way to go, well, I guess we did, but no one would do it. And he's crazy enough to do it. And I think that's what everyone who voted him in wanted to happen. So I don't think anyone's real worried about egg prices. if you are worried about egg prices, you should know they've all gone down. But there's all these like temporary things that happen in something like this. There may be a fluctuation of energy costs. Right now it's going down like crazy. That is likely temporary. It'll probably come up some once everything shakes out with the tariffs and agreements and all that kind of stuff. That'll probably adjust back up to normal, while lumber costs may go back down. So it's just, I don't think anyone, if you're surprised and that's what you voted for, like, you just didn't pay attention, because everything he said he was going to do, he's doing. And the people who are most surprised are likely going to be economists who thought like, oh, this will just totally tank, the economy. This will tank the market. And I think what they're seeing is that that's not happening. Like Andy said, it's just the economy is stronger than they thought, and it's doing better. There was I can't remember the car company. I wish I could remember the car company, but there was a car company that said that the tariffs will eat into their profits. And basically, I can't remember the numbers either. I'm just going to use generalization. But if they were making, 15 million, now they're going to make 10 million, or maybe it was billions, but it was a lot. And they said that they are not going to pass that on to the consumers because they support what is happening and they understand that the manufacturing can come back to the US, and that's what they're hoping for. So there are some companies out there that are basically eating the additional cost in order to have the opportunity that the tariffs are affording them. But we'll see if they stick. Those tariffs may be negotiated away between the two parties, between the two countries. And then, that company is like, well, okay, now there aren't tariffs. But what I think will happen is that when they're negotiated, it's not going to be like they were. We're going to be able to export goods to those countries that we haven't been able to yet. And that's going to open up all kinds of opportunity for American-based businesses, or even businesses that are, they have factories and stuff elsewhere, but they're still headquartered out of the US. I think it's going to be better for those companies in the long run. So it's a little bit of a wait and see. I'm not panicked about any of it. I think it's all kind of going according to plan. Some of it's taking longer than others, but so far, so good. I'm not, I'm in the middle of the country, and I'm not seeing a huge increase in cost associated with anything that I'm doing. So I don't know what the news headlines are like. Oh, look at all this. It's crazy. It's not really that crazy. It's, I see the stock market going up and down, but I'm trying to buy as soon as I see it go down. That's normal too. So I'm hoping I can buy up a lot as as the real estate stocks continue to be suppressed and I get access to the real broker stock. I want to sell as many deals as I can to hopefully take advantage of that low right now, because I don't think it's going to be there for long. So, all right. Well, that's all I've got for today. I would love to hear your opinion in the comments. So drop your thoughts in the comments, and you guys can find me at Ray Zorback on Instagram. That's RayZorback. But you guys go make it a great day. I will let you know. Don't forget to hit the bell, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, so you can see when next week's show is. Because we have that virtual conference on Wednesday. So it will likely, maybe I'll have to move it to Tuesday. There won't be that much news to cover. Maybe we'll do like a short headline show or something like that. All right, guys, I'll see you next week somehow. Bye.